Welcome to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno.
What's the current state of pop ghost hunting? Is there a growing interest in finding connections between various kinds of paranormal phenomena that we might have thought were unrelated? And what is legend tripping?
Hello, and welcome to the 337th broadcast of Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. And those various questions came from my co-host and partner in the paranormal, my dad. So we have a real rarity this evening, everybody. We have an in-studio guest, but that's only happened, 3 times in the past?
The whole
and it was
5 years we've been on the air.
Yeah, I know. So congratulations.
Like a couple of lonely old ladies, we love it when somebody visits.
I know, yes, exactly. We'll start knitting in a few seconds. So, last week's question was, to get to our weekly paranormal contest, last week's question was, in what year did Brazilian troops observe and catalog UFO sightings near that country's western border with Bolivia?
That was 1977. People in a little village near the Bolivian border reported UFOs buzzing their village. The troops spent some time there and supposedly got an eyeful. Shira Krakowski of Canton, Ohio got that one right and wins the Encyclopedia of Angels by last week's guest, Rosemary Ellen Guiley. Shira listens to us on WDSY Radio in Pittsburgh.
All right, so for this week's question, in Jewish folklore, what is the name for a humanoid being made from inanimate matter? So nail that and win a copy of The Ghost Files, Paranormal Encounters Discussion and Research from the Vaults of GhostVillage.com by this evening's guest.
And before we introduce that august personage, we wanted to give you our phone numbers tonight. Call us locally or from anywhere at 401-766-1240 or from anywhere in the U.S. at 800-449-1240. If nobody answers that question during the show and you'd still like to give it a shot, drop us an email during the week at paul@behindtheparanormal.com or ben@behindtheparanormal.com. Our guest, Jeff Belanger, founded ghostvillage.com in October of 1999. He has been writing for publications since 1992 and has worked as a magazine editor, journalist, freelance writer, and has authored numerous books on the paranormal, a lot more than I have, I might say. His books have been published in 6 different languages so far. He's lectured around the United States to audiences big and small, and he's become a media personality, appearing on over 100 radio and television programs worldwide, including the History Channel, Travel Channel, Living TV in the UK, The Maury Show, CBS News Early Show, National Public Radio, BBC, Australian Radio Network, Coast to Coast AM, and the X Zone. You can visit his personal website at www.jeffbelanger.com. That's Jeff with a J. And, of course, ghostvillage.com. Jeff currently haunts our own neighborhood here and does not live very far from the station, somewhere in Massachusetts.
I like your pun. It was very nice.
Well, sorry about that. The unintentional ones are the worst.
You're welcome. All right, so Jeff Belanger, welcome back to Behind the Paranormal.
Guys, it's great to be here with you. You are much better looking in person than you are through the telephone.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, well, that I'll grant you. All right. It must be 4 years since you were on the show. We were still in Phoenix, and I think it was still all internet at that point.
Oh no, he was on a few years before, a year after that when we started here.
I do 16,
I do recall that because you're like, hey, you only live 30 miles away from us. Why aren't you here with us?
No, well, anyway, well, that's good. I'm glad he's here tonight.
Yeah.
Before we can begin talking about the ghostly with Jeff, though, I don't want to get into another subject, but we can't fail to report on the alleged UFO crash in Litchfield, Connecticut. Did you hear about that?
I have not. Do tell.
Okay. This is last Tuesday, April 10th. That's the vicinity of the case where we often talk about on the show. Ben and I were called in on this case in 2005 because the homeowner had read footsteps in the attic and said that this multiverse idea was the only thing that came close to explaining all the goofy stuff that was going on in her house. So it started with ghosts and time slips, and by 2009 we were dealing with what appeared to be alien grays in the house, UFOs, and black helicopters flying overhead, and armed troops apparently guarding what Ben thought were portal areas nearby, and I tended to agree with him. The case continues to this day. As a matter of fact, we plan to hold a town hall meeting in that area as soon as we can organize it. So on Tuesday, here's what happened. 2 people, one a Connecticut State Trooper, reported a green glowing object in the sky that fell into or near Bantam Lake in Litchfield, which is odd because I used to fish in Bantam Lake as a kid from Connecticut originally. And there's our good friend and researcher Larry Loeb pointed out, what burns green? Copper, right?
Yeah.
So that probably equals meteor. Size of a whale. One of the witnesses said the thing was. Well, if the thing was the size of a whale,
wouldn't that, if that was a meteor, that would cause a lot of damage.
It would be a large hole in the middle of Litchfield, Connecticut at this point.
Or maybe larger than that.
Unless it was a controlled landing. But I mean, this just sounds like meteor to me. But you know, a lot of our contacts are looking into this, and there was also on the same day when it was in Siberia, there was also a report of a crash. Not into a lake though, so they're looking for that. But who knows? I mean, these things land all the time. You know, when have you ever seen a fireball?
You mean like meteor, like astrological event kind of thing?
Yeah.
Astronomy. Sorry.
Yeah,
astronomical. Yeah. Sorry, forgive me.
Well,
totally different. Totally different. Yeah. No, I've seen meteorites and things like that, but no, not a fireball.
Well, I've been lucky enough to see them twice.
Okay.
One was right down here in Mendon Road in Cumberland, of all places, in Rhode Island, and I actually got out of the car and you could see it way up, and it was greenish, and there were it was sparks flying off, which in fact were chunks of the meteor, of the metal. And Ben, you're blinding me here. We need to,
for those who can't see, the window shade just mysteriously went up.
Well, unfortunately, we're on...
Ben touched it. And
if anybody's listening on a computer, we're on ONTV here.
You're getting beamed
vying with CBS for...
I blame the weather.
You're getting beamed into the mothership there for a second.
Yeah, that's right. Get rid of me once.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
So in any case, I have seen one of those, and it does kind of match this description, but those fireballs don't often enter the atmosphere. They very often will skip off.
Yeah.
This sort of thing. So this sounds like meteor to me, but we are looking into it, and I just wanted to mention that several of the people we're working with on this case did report it to us, and thought maybe it's connected with some of the bizarre circus-like goings on in that area.
Sure.
So okay, there we are. So I don't so you kind of wouldn't see that as anything more than meteor either, huh?
Well, I don't know enough about it.
I know you're not a UFO expert.
No, but it's so interesting. That area of Connecticut, I lived in Connecticut years ago, and I can tell you that of course Dudleytown's up that way.
Oh yeah, the whole place is hot, as you might say.
Yeah, New England. Well, you guys know, New England is such an interesting place for legends because we hold on to them, we share them with each other. It's the past that comes alive again and again, and these places become hotspots. Why Litchfield? Why that corner of Connecticut?
Yeah.
Why the Bridgewater Triangle? Why the Bennington Triangle? The places that come up again and again that seem to get more than their share of.
Well, what's even more interesting is there's authorities of some kind.
Yeah.
I don't always assume it's the government.
Right.
Are interested in it. I guess there were armed troops in this area turning people away from a certain abandoned farm where something was going on, and it was, right out of some kind of a movie. So, anyway, Ben, again, our number 800-449-1240. Ben, take it away.
All right, so now let's get to our guest after that fun little sidebar. So, Jeff, is it wishful thinking on our part, or did we detect that you are a little disillusioned with what's going on with the feral ghost hunters these days, as we like to call them?
I don't know about that. I think that, I've been doing this long enough that I've kind of seen waves of people that come into it, and I've certainly been repeating conversations that I thought we were done with years ago. They seem to come up again, like orbs. Orbs were this big thing, and then they went away, and now they're making a comeback for some strange reason, and we're having all the same discussions. I think the discussion is so interesting. And like always, right, there's people that come into it for whatever weird reason. They want to, it's a social thing, they just want to hang out with others, they watch the TV shows and they want to emulate what they see on television. But there's always that minority that really might get into it for those weird reasons, but then finds something and gets, starts getting serious about it. And that's always been the way. I'm sure there were people that started when you started and dropped out for whatever reason.
Not a heck of a lot. It wasn't really taken seriously in the early 70s,
No, I understand. But I can think of people that in the
seminary dropped me because of it.
Because you're into the weird stuff.
Well, yeah. I was hanging out with Lorraine too. So.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
No, I was thrown out a year before ordination, 1977, early 77, because they didn't like my paranormal work. They didn't even want to talk to me.
Because of Ed and Lorraine Warren?
Well, no, it wasn't because it was me, mainly.
Well, sure,
of course. It was unfortunate. I had to turn out. Fortunately, I ended up in journalism and had to have just by dumb luck or design had a good career here in Rhode Island in that. But it wasn't popular then. People would look at you, although people would always be interested in talking about it.
Sure.
As I remember as a kid. we had a lot of visitors at my house, especially after church. People would come over and just hang out with my mother because my father had died very young. And it was very interesting because they'd talk about routine stuff going on in the town, East Hartford, Connecticut, and this sort of thing. And then all of a sudden somebody would say, "Oh, did you hear the strange thing that happened to so-and-so?" Total silence. Everybody would hang on every word of this story of some weird guy who'd seen a ghost or something. It didn't come up very often.
Right.
But every once in a while it would. So people have always been fascinated by this. So it was a natural outcome of it to have this explosion of interest, I suppose.
And that goes back centuries. And it's so interesting that the seminary would have trouble with this, with you in particular, because I've always thought a ghost is kind of like the least common denominator of spirituality. You know, you can talk about the afterlife and strip out all those dogmas of religion, right? We're not. If you walked into a crowded room and said, "I want to tell you about my religion," everybody would squirm. If you said, "Hey, let's talk about ghost stories," well, what you're really talking about is death and what comes after it. And so you get to strip all that stuff away, and I think it's an amazing way to explore spirituality. I got into this because I had those same questions. I almost became an atheist in college, and I never quite crossed over because I believe...
Never quite crossed over, I like that.
Never, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, God, there they are. So I never got to that point because I said, there must be a God who created all this, and I believed in ghosts. And I said, well, if there's a ghost, then that means maybe we have an afterlife situation. And I've been exploring my spirituality through this ever since.
Oh, good. Yeah.
It's led me to amazing places. It's led me to meet incredible people who express themselves in different ways. My Roman Catholic roots come up again and again. Protestant people, everything in between. It's so fascinating to me how we all deal with this, right? It's a part of us, and
it is. That's well put. It is very much a part of us. It was part of our remote ancestors, and they knew all this stuff. And I was coming from a philosophical standpoint. Today, we're the philosophical freaks of human history.
Right.
We're the ones who don't believe, have to have everything proven to us. You don't believe in God. Oh, I don't know this, or the paranormal, or whatever puny terms you want to put on this mighty reality.
Sure.
We're the ones who, nobody else seemed, well, not nobody else, but a lot of people never had a problem with that before. And so we're like back in kindergarten again. And it is, I guess, the first day of school.
Well, and that's okay. What I think is so important, Ben asked about the state of the paranormal community today. There's always people coming to the table with questions, and there always have been. And so, yeah, we're going to get frustrated from time to time, but I think if we can keep that discussion going, which is kind of the role I've always seen. Even when I started Ghost Village, the mission statements never changed. It was, I want to explore every avenue of it. The skeptical, the debunking, the religious, the spiritual, the scientific, everything, because I don't know. I have no idea how this all works. I just know that all these people can't be lying, and I've had my own experiences that I can't explain in any other way but to say, that's a ghost. My mind lacks any explanation for a few instances in my life except to call it a ghost.
That is the classic explanation for people becoming interested in this subject.
Right.
My problem, personally, perhaps, was I had this many, many years of formal theological education and education in philosophy, and a lot of work in, because I went to 3 seminaries. The third one, they were very different. The second one was rather supportive of this.
Right.
They set up special courses, and I went out to the local state hospital, part of pastoral training as well. But they realized that I was working with with several major exorcists at the time. One was Father John Nicola, and also with one of the people locally who was the diocesan guy on this. And we went out and we would specifically assist doctors who were convinced there was no other explanation for someone's particular state in this hospital than that they were possessed. And believe it, and because obviously very, very hush. I mean, there are reasons why some of these things are not discussed.
Sure.
So that's where I was coming from. So I perhaps came in from more of a negative point of view. I had no doubts about quote-unquote afterlife or any of this stuff. But I find that with all those people I studied with and all the stuff I did all those years, I believe very little of that now.
Oh, really?
So
do you think you've reasoned it away, or do you think...
No, just the opposite. I think that they perhaps reasoned it into a corner that fit the theological mold, whereas the realities are real. The interpretation, at least on my part, has changed. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. And so, and I began running into cases that I don't know. I flatter myself that you've ever read anything I've written, but I've run into cases where the old explanations just weren't good. Death wasn't good enough in explanation.
Right.
The whole idea of the spirit world was not good enough. You can see where people would come to the conclusion that's what it is, because what else could it be? We live in a three-dimensional, you could argue four-dimensional world. We have 5 senses. If you can't feel it, touch it, taste it, or see it, or hear it, then it's not real. So therefore, this has got to be some spirit thing. But again, the cases I ran into, just from day one, didn't add up in that point. So hence, when I discovered physics and stuff in the 70s, I kind of latched onto this quantum mechanics. It wasn't my idea, but I think I might claim credit for being probably one of the first guys in the field to apply these theories to that. And I've kind of stuck with it ever since, because at least for me, it works. And I get frustrated with the what I call the pop paranormal community, because as you say, there are a certain percentage who are the salt of the earth. They are sincere researchers, sincere seekers after truth, not curiosity seekers. And I can't help but respect that. But I get frustrated when they come in and they just, through no fault of their own, have had no academic discipline in their training or in their activities, and they're all working on the same thing, and nobody talks to each other.
Right.
That can be frustrating. And then when they do talk to each other, as some people point out, well, they don't understand, or they're you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah,
and people criticize us for being so critical of that community, and we don't consider ourselves part of it, because we consider ourselves cosmic sojourners more than anything else. But again, but I don't know. You can see why I get frustrated, but I don't mean to be unfair to those who are sincere seekers after truth.
But I mean, wouldn't you agree that at some point in our lives, maybe you went the path of seminary, but at some point we were all thrill seeking. And I still am.
I didn't need to thrill seek. I had plenty of
but I mean, I admit,
I hear you.
As a kid, I remember hearing, the White Lady of Easton, in
I hear you,
Connecticut.
Jeff, yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh my, right over there, really? I live close enough, I could go there.
Or the Dover Demon, that was right around the corner.
The Dover Demon.
Well, when it started, it was 8th grade. I don't know if you remember those. Well, you're probably not old enough. They used to have the Scholastic. Yeah, here I go with the age. The Scholastic Publishing Company would sell to kids in school. And I bought this book called Strangely Enough. And I was in 7th or 8th grade, and it was one of the early things, It wasn't well researched, just stories and legends somebody was repeating.
Sure.
And I was hooked. And then as time went by, and I began to, and then you're right, the religious veneer that surrounds a lot of, the paranormal demands some sort of spiritual response.
Sure.
And explanation. And so, that really, you're right, it did kind of.
I don't think you can look at
thrills.
When speaking of ghostly realm, I don't think you can have that discussion without a spiritual one, a philosophical one. Yeah. And so while I appreciate,
what does it mean?
I appreciate people that are trying to apply science to it and do various experiments. That's all very interesting. It's not the path I go down. And let me say straight out, I am no representative of the paranormal community. Sure, I know
we
lots
consider you kind of a major dude.
Well,
big cheese there.
Thanks, I guess.
Internet realm, anyway. So.
Well, no, but I mean, that site has always just been a place for people to come together.
Yeah. I've always enjoyed it. Frustrated sometimes, angry at times.
But that's good.
I've always,
That's good.
We'll get into that in the second half hour. You're not getting out of here scot-free.
No, that's fine. That's good. I would hate to have a place where it's just only where everyone agrees. That would be boring.
That's right.
That would be terrible. That would be, like we're seeing so much media today that just focuses on one viewpoint, and suddenly, you don't get any information that challenges your way of thinking at all. And that's a danger in the world we live in, because we live in such a, the internet's an amazing thing. However, it allows us to become our own editor-in-chief, where I can say, I only like one sports team, and so I get news feeds that only relate to that sports team, and I only subscribe to one political view and one religious view, and so you can create content that's only what you agree with. And that's kind of sad. You're never going to shake it up or think a little differently, or at least consider the other side.
Well, that's true journalism. Having worked at the Providence Journal myself for years, I'd run into the most narrow-minded. Not all. There are plenty of great people down there,
sure.
but, and a lot of them are still there. they have one point of view, and they went to college and you didn't, so I know more than you do, and
Right.
you're a dope, and that really down deep sometimes is the attitude, and the same thing can happen in the paranormal community.
Sure.
And then you don't learn anything that way. I mean, if you don't talk to people who disagree with you, you don't learn anything new, and you don't think of it, well, I never thought about it that way, or it's like, oh, well, that's interesting, I should probably try that.
Yes.
Or thinking, like, put yourself in someone else's shoes, so to speak.
And it's very interesting. I mean, I've always kind of viewed myself as an observer, and that's again started as a journalist. Who, what, when, where, why. Try to get both sides of the issue, and see where it shakes out. And over time, just observing the community, it is interesting. The TV shows play a huge role, and I know you rolled your eyes before, and but
Well, I'll tell you why after the break.
No problem. And that's fine. I understand. And having been on organized ghost hunts with people that pay to go to events, I see the frustration. It's been 7 minutes, no ghost has popped out yet, and you say, the real world.
It goes a lot deeper than that, at least in our family. And we've been not very often. We like to work alone. We don't like to work with hordes of people coming in. And there was one girl, and wonderful people, just great. I think they're out of the Boston area, and we went with them once to
I know what you're talking
particular
about.
house. And I was scandalized because they were far more interested in the readings on some silly meter than they were on the poor suffering woman whose problems were probably at the root of what was going on. And it was awful. I just, I didn't want to say anything. But because I have a lot on the air, but it's just when people said it's probably just as well, because if they set themselves up to counsel this person, they might have made a pig's breakfast out of the whole thing.
Here's the thing about that, and the equipment to me is interesting. However, legend tripping I
want to get into that,
and we will. Like the whole point was, there's a million things that'll set off an EMF meter. We live on a giant magnet called Earth.
Exactly.
But there's not a million things that make an apparition form in front of you,
right?
And that's entirely more limited. And also with dealing with family cases, most of us, the overwhelming majority, aren't qualified.
No,
we're not psychologists. We're not counselors. And some people, I've seen many times where, and that's why a big reason I don't get involved really with family cases is that you realize there are demons there. There's alcoholism, drug abuse, violence issues, and people want you to come in and say, okay, there's ghosts here, and I'm going to get rid of them, and now you're no longer going to be an alcoholic, you're no longer going to be a drug abuser, you're no longer going to have these violence issues. I tell people I could get the Pope to move in for a week. Not that I couldn't really, but so yeah, I don't have those kinds of connections.
Brush up on your German.
So the Pope comes here for a week and douses the place in holy water, and you feel like, okay, the demons are gone. You're still going to be the alcoholic. You're still going to have these other issues that have to be dealt with, and so they're so complex. These cases, and that's why I always encourage groups, please, oh please, find a psychologist to go with you, someone qualified to deal with people that are going through stressful situations. And I tell families, and this is why a lot of them turn me away, if you're really dealing with something you feel is dangerous, let's see the doctor, check medication and all that stuff. Let's see a psychologist, make sure we're dealing with that. Let's deal with your spirituality if you're subscribed to a belief system. Let's go at it from all angles. Because that's what I would do, if I felt like I've got a problem, I want to go at it from every single angle. If I'm on the wrong medicine, get me off it.
Yeah.
If I'm living under power lines and it's making me hallucinate, I got to move. Whatever. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, ultimately it comes down to the people in the case. I mean, they are the be-all, end-all of any of the paranormal phenomena as we see it.
Of course.
Exactly.
The witness, the witness is everything.
Well, they also may be the cause, the root cause. It's a holistic process. So anyway, why don't we take a break now, and then we will...
Beat me up.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
We love you,
tie you to the
but
wall
it's
and just...
All right.
All right.
ON Radio. ON Worldwide.
Hey everybody, this is the Moose Man. Check out the Groove Line for the best blues, rock, funk, classic 50s, and the Beatles every single week. Tune in Thursdays from 6 to 7 p.m. That's the Groove Line right here on ON.
ON Radio. ON Worldwide.
And we are, of course, brought to you by Amazon Kindle, and we wanted to sing the praises of this marvelous e-reader device, and certainly the Amazon Kindle Fire came out last November. One of the biggest Christmas presents of 2011. And, of course, Mother's Day is coming near. And I know I tried to teach my mom, Ben's grandmother, how to use a microwave for 40 years, and it didn't work. But whether she would have enjoyed a Kindle, I don't know. But I think that your grandmother might, your mother might. And certainly check it out at Staples and, of course, Amazon.com. You can get over 1 million publications, apps, movies, all sorts of books from these things, including 4 of my books. And I always drag the poor guest into this. I'm sure that you've written a dozen books at least, and they must be on Amazon Kindle, right?
Yeah, there's a bunch that are on Kindle. And
excellent. So check it, Jeff Belanger and me, and what else can I say?
Do you have any reader?
No.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Oh, jeez.
The sponsor's going to drop us now.
I'm going to throw I have one, and I can tell you that.
I'll borrow it.
I became a convert. I really did.
Okay.
I always thought it's not intimate like holding a book.
Yeah.
But it is. It's they've really come a long way, and it's pretty cool. You get on an airplane and you have all your books.
Excellent. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Well, we have a private library of 3,500 books at home, but and a lot of them are not on Kindle because they were written in the 1840s. But hey, who knows?
Right.
They're getting there. So check it out, folks. Again, you can get them at Staples. There's all sorts of price ranges, color, black and white, and everything else. And thank you, Jeff.
Hey, anything to do to help.
Send your cut next week.
All right.
Anyway, so, folks, again, Amazon Kindle. Thanks very much. Okay, welcome back to Behind the Paranormal on WOON 1240 AM and ONWorldwide.com on the Internet and New England's beautiful Blackstone River Valley. Our guest today is Jeff Belanger of GhostVillage.com. A well-known figure in that community and on the Internet, a speaker, prolific author, and all-around Renaissance man of the paranormal. Okay. So, Jeff, when you were on last, we've had a great discussion so far, but now it's my turn.
Do it. Go ahead.
Okay. When you were on last time, again, 3-4 years ago, I called you on the idea that you have a part of your website, and most of which is very interesting, a lot of open-minded articles, and this particular one is aimed at children and their parents.
Right.
And I was upset, and I'm still upset.
Oh, good.
That you're encouraging children to get involved in the paranormal. I don't think you know what you're doing in that realm. And
yeah,
I think
you said that last time.
Yeah.
I still disagree.
Okay. Tell me where I'm wrong.
No, here's the thing. Children are going to be interested in the subject. I mean,
that's what you said last time. Yeah, okay.
Do you want to talk about teaching safe sex in school? Because it seems to me it's almost like
nothing like that.
Children are going to be interested. They're going to see the shows. And when I was a kid, there were no resources. There were books by Hans Holzer and Brad Steiger and things like that. And so if they're going to be interested, I at least want them to have some kind of guidelines. And that didn't exist before a few years ago. And so I'm still happy to keep that up there, even though you disagree.
Well, just guidelines from whom? I mean, you got a lot of people, most of the people out there writing, the vast majority, I would say, don't know anything. I mean, they're repeating 19th century baloney as if it's real. When people go out into this and they immediately assume. I assumed when I started out in 71 that we were dealing with spirits and all the spiritualist claptrap that comes with it. And there are things that look like that, but one of the first things I learned was that nothing in the paranormal is what it appears to be. And I would meet messed up kids. I would meet messed up kids for whom a book like the one I had in 8th grade was a start, almost like getting started in drugs. And this is unusual.
Okay. All right,
but it does happen. So my main criticism, and let me just look, I took the liberty of printing out some of the stuff here from your parents' site. There's a site that obviously attached to the children's site, which has to do with advice for parents. Okay. I would say, for the kid, it's a good picture because the kid looks terrified. All right. Let me put it simply. You don't satisfy curiosity about volcanoes by going and jumping into a volcano. Right?
No, that's true, but do you not get close to see one?
It depends if you have proper guidance.
Okay.
All right. Who was the guy who was in Hawaii? Who was just on the
What if you live in Japan and you're near Mount Fuji?
Well, then tough luck. All right.
All right.
Here's one of the things. Most hauntings are benign. This is from the advice to parents.
Yeah.
That's not true at all.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay. Well, I have 42 years of experience. What the heck do I know, right?
I disagree with you.
Okay, why?
Because of thousands of interviews I've done with people who
What?
have described.
Who also, know nothing about what they're dealing with.
These are witnesses. These are
So
not
what?
experts.
You can be witness to something and have no idea what it is.
This is your belief system creeping in, for certain. This is you
How
saying...
do you know about my belief system?
Because you've already said you went to seminary. We've already spilled it.
I also said that I don't believe anything that I learned from the people I was taught by.
So do you think they're demons?
No, Jeff.
Well, no, I'm just...
I
because
love
that's...
you, I love you, buddy, but you're jumping to conclusions.
Well, then help me.
About
'cause
I'm trying to.
Then what's the
Okay.
danger of someone
The
saying...
danger is experience.
Okay.
Mainly. Because I can give you philosophy, I can give you physics and everything, but I can also give you experience because you have experience too. You can understand that.
Sure.
All right. And Ben, jump in here too because you have experience as well.
You're going off right now. I'll wait till you...
Okay. No. All right. Yeah. Wait till the volcano comes down.
Go ahead.
Yes.
But no, I listen to this man because one of the reasons I've read, and it's ironic that I'm sitting here with my son, whom I brought in. I'm
I know.
criticizing you for this.
Totally ironic.
Okay, yeah, it is. But I like to think that there were extenuating circumstances here. All right. But he knows kids have really been messed up by this.
Okay.
My problem with this is that I've seen kids who watched one of the feral TV shows on ghost hunting or even sometimes UFOs.
Sure.
They get interested. The next step, Ouija board. Maybe seances with their friends.
Right.
There's nothing more stimulating for a kid than to me, especially a kid maybe ignored by his parents, part of a large family or whatever, not doing well in school.
Right.
Hey, I may be kind of a flop day to day, but there's this cosmic entity paying attention to me. Whoa. You know?
Okay.
Especially if it starts to pat the ego.
So do you believe Ouija boards are communicating with something that's not...
Well, we went over this with Dr. Nichols last night on CBS. He was expressing the need for extreme caution.
Okay.
I can say 65 to 70% of my cases over the 42 years I've been doing this have started with kids using Ouija boards. Right?
Yeah, no, I used one as a kid. I remember.
Well, so did I. And I mentioned the example last night. I was telling Dr. Nichols, I said, I used one, I was in sixth grade, seventh grade, and my friend was in sixth grade, neighbor, got one for his birthday, and, I've been after Milton Bradley for 40 years.
Hasbro now.
Like they're going to listen to me, right?
Hasbro runs it.
Hasbro owns it.
So anyway, we asked the thing a number of questions, and we asked it when we were going to die.
Right.
It said he would die in 1985, and he did.
Wow.
He was drowned. This is in Connecticut. He was drowned here in Narragansett Bay. I suppose we should have been more, specific about the questions.
Yeah.
It gave me a few more years to crank along here as I am now.
Well, good.
But can you imagine a kid getting, when are my parents going to die? What's going to happen to this? And every day,
right?
No exaggeration. We're getting information or scared parents, kids. Who have said that the Ouija board, all this stuff's happening. How do we get the spirit back into the board? As if that's where it comes from.
Right.
It's not Jumanji here. I mean.
Yeah. Well, it does. It almost reminds you of it sometimes. And it's kids who've gotten into trouble. It's told them to kill people and take drugs. I could go on for hours about the things I've run into with this. So I'm not just talking about Ouija boards and seances here. I'm talking about...
Quick point on Ouija boards.
Sure.
In 1967, they outsold Monopoly.
Yes, I'm aware, yeah. That's almost the year we were using this.
If people were to say, okay, you got something ghostly going on in your house, tell me something. Is there a Monopoly in your house?
There's a Monopoly.
Everyone would go, oh my God, there is a Monopoly. However, this poor piece of cardboard and plastic that's been villainized by a lot of people. And I'm not taking a side here. I'm just making an observation because I don't use them. I bring them along to paranormal investigations and ghost hunts because they freak people out. And it's very interesting to watch the reaction where people then tell their stories about their experience with the Ouija board. And are we communicating with something else? Are we communicating with our own subconscious?
Anything is possible.
Of course. And I agree with you there. And I also accept that these things can lead to other things. But if a kid's interested, they're going to find something. And if it's not a Ouija board, maybe it's a seance, maybe it's this or that. But the reality is you can go to Toys R Us right now, and Hasbro has them stacked up there, and they're still a top-selling game, board game.
And it's no game. I mean, you can say, it's out there, it's the reality, but that doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah, well, you don't have to agree with it, but at the same time, the reality is that we live in a spiritually diverse world. There's Muslims, there's Jews, Hindus, atheists, and there's spiritualists. And the Ouija board is a byproduct of the spiritualist movement. If not for the spiritualist movement in 1848, which probably would have died out if we didn't have a civil war and a whole lot of people dying untimely deaths.
Exactly right.
Where people needed answers and their churches and synagogues weren't giving them to them, so they went to mediums.
Quite true.
And the Ouija board came along at a time when finally the literacy rate was starting to climb, because Ouija boards don't do you any good if you can't spell. And so in 1891, the Kennard Novelty Company starts Ouija, which is a brand name. It's not a...
That's why we capitalize it.
That's right. Yeah. It's a trademark that now belongs to... There are talking boards, spirit boards, witch boards, all those kinds of things. And so really what you have here is an artifact of Victorian seances of the spiritualist movement that's still around today, because that's a cultural influence, just as Roman Catholicism is a cultural influence, just as Judaism, Islam, Hindu, all of those things. So, yes, the reality, you may not think it's right or wrong, but it's part of us. The Ouija board is part of us.
Well, let's get back to you encouraging kids to get involved. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to correct you on the Ouija board.
Of course, that's what we're talking about.
Okay, go ahead.
It's your interview. On this business, I just am bothered by you thinking that most hauntings are benign. We don't know that. I mean, how do you determine whether one is benign or not?
That's just by observation from, and let me qualify that. Since 1999, GhostVillage.com has published in the neighborhood of like 1,200 personal encounter stories, and I've read them all. And most of them, the description is not something that's caused harm or frightening. In addition to those 1,200 emails, 1,200 things we've published, I've received thousands of emails, as I'm sure you have, telling me their stories. And I've interviewed over 1,000 people now for all my books. And in very rare circumstances do people describe a situation where they're fearful, they feel they're in danger, etc. It seems to be something that's just there, something that's just present with them. So it's observation based on thousands of observations that I make that point. I still stand by it.
Okay. Well, everything you said, I can say so have I.
Fine.
Except for the website.
Well, we're going to agree to disagree on that one.
Yeah. Okay. But it's a matter of I can't get away from the idea that nothing in the paranormal is what it appears to be. We are not critical thinkers in this country. We're very bad at interdisciplinary thinking, as we were discussing before the show.
Sure.
We don't know how to see the big picture. We hear footsteps over our heads. We think, oh, gee, we put it together. Uncle Joe just died, and we put it all together. We assume.
Sure, absolutely.
And let me ask you, those stories that people have sent you, how much follow-up has been done?
None. I freely, on the ones published, this is someone saying this is my story.
And nobody could expect it. You've heard the follow-up.
Of course not. But there are others that I've interviewed personally over the years and kept in touch with, and sometimes the things just end and go away. Sometimes people move. Sometimes, and I admit sometimes people do seem quite troubled by what they're experiencing.
Well, as you say, I mean, you don't know.
Right.
We've had plenty of positive. We had a cousin who lived in Florida. She was 104 years old before she passed on, or translated, as we say.
Right.
Every day she took that Ouija board. She talked to all her friends and all, and she just when she read one of my books in which I referred to such people as schmucks. She said, "You were you talking about me?" I'm in trouble now. But in any case, I mean, there are people who, you stand in the middle of the highway and all of the steel's hurtling by you at high speed. Maybe you'll get hit, maybe you won't.
Sure.
The trouble with and I know we're getting back into this again.
No, go ahead.
The trouble with the sledgehammer approaches like Ouija boards and seances is that you're not going out and meeting your neighbor. You're knocking down their front wall, and you have no idea whether their husband's going to come out with a shotgun or not.
Well, the thing is, it's like the same type of people using what's it called, psychedelic drugs to experience paranormal things when they really don't have to if they're disciplined enough.
Well, exactly.
Let me say this too about the Ouija board, and it's kind of my last word on it. I don't discriminate between the Ouija board, a K2 EMF meter, EVP, dowsing rods, all of those things. People are invoking whatever is there to communicate via these methods. I think that we have to put them all on the same table. If you feel that's dangerous and can open a doorway, don't touch any of them.
That's very logical. And from a logical standpoint, I would agree with you. It's just that my experience shows differently somehow.
Because the Ouija board's stigmatized.
The Ouija board is stigmatized
And there's
for
been
good
movies,
reason.
and there's going to
And
be
the seances, too.
It wasn't stigmatized until 1973 with William Peter Blatty. That's really where the line in the sand. He wrote a book called The Exorcist, which was made into an awesome horror movie. And from there,
it got me thrown out of the seminary. Well, see, that's the atmosphere in which that was taking place, because they were paranoid about that. And here I was doing this. If that hadn't happened, maybe it wouldn't have occurred. But in any case, to get back to the children, I just think it's a reckless and dangerous assumption to assume that something is good, and to assume that people know enough to decide that it's good. Most people don't know anything about it.
One of the points I make, too, is that parents need to be parents. And as a dad, I look at everything as a learning opportunity as well. So if your kid feels your house is haunted, you need to have dialogue.
Oh, absolutely.
You need
don't think they're stupid.
No,
either. Yeah.
Kids are way smarter than us.
You have a long list here of certain age groups and how to approach them,
right.
Which I guess is okay. I mean, I wouldn't really have
we had PhDs help with that part.
Yeah, well, some of the dumbest people I know have PhDs, and you too know plenty who.
I don't have a PhD.
No. You know plenty of people too with PhDs who with all due respect.
No, sure. No, I get it. And the thing is, we want our children to feel safe. That's so important.
That's it.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs in psychology, right? If you don't feel that your physical body is safe, everything else there's this pyramid, right? And at the bottom is safety, and then food, water, shelter, right?
Sure.
And then happiness is up near the top. So if you don't feel safe, you can't move up that pyramid. And so I felt like there was no resource for parents to have. Where do they go? Anything
that's the problem.
At least get you started.
You mentioned clergy, doctor. I think that's unfortunately not necessarily good advice. Okay, well, we have a caller right now. Let's take a break from Duel of the Idealists here. Hello, you're on Behind the Paranormal.
Hey, how are you, gentlemen?
Hold on. Yeah, how's the audio there? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, that's better.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, you have a question for Jeff?
Actually, I want to stick up for Joe for a second. And, I think it's important that... Now, I might be misunderstanding what you're saying, Paul, but the idea of just telling children, oh, no, this isn't for you, stay away from that, that's the kind of thing that's going to encourage children to do it on their own. Hey, okay, my parents don't understand me. Why don't I get my friends together and we'll do it by ourselves? We don't want our parents to know we're doing this.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I'm not saying don't deal with it, but it's a matter of how you deal with it.
Yeah, I think it's important that, if you're going to get involved with it, to have some parental guidance, and really, more than anything, people who are older than you, because, with age comes wisdom. Nothing
supposedly.
Nothing else. Supposedly, correct. You're right.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. Jeff, what do you have to say?
No, I get it. And one of the other things, too, that I've seen, part of the inspiration for that website you're talking about for kids happened when I was in Gettysburg. And I saw a family of 4, right out of like a Gap ad. Like blonde, blue-eyed, They stepped out of a Gap ad. And they're in their triangular field at dusk taking pictures, looking for ghosts. And the kids couldn't have been more. I mean, one was 5, one was 7. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. It was almost this legend hunting kind of thing.
Which we want to...
Yeah, no, it's fine. Whatever we get to is fine. But and to me, I think that's a pretty cool thing for a family to do, is to say this is a place that's sacred. I mean, it's Gettysburg. And we know there's ghost stories around here. And like you said, kids are smart. Why are there ghosts here? There are ghosts here because something horrible happened in 1863 in the span of 3 days, in July of 1863, and that left a mark. And that mark, it's haunted because it should be haunted. It's haunted because we should remember what happened there. And so the pursuit of that, to me, and I stand by this, is that I think it's a pretty cool thing to do for a family. If my kid's interested in something like that, I'll be there with her to make sure that she's not trespassing, she's not doing stupid things, and I want to talk to her about it. It's an opportunity for a dialogue. Now, there's also situations where families are living in haunted homes where what do I tell my kids? What do I do? And there's nothing on the web. They need a starting point. And like I said, please include doctors, psychologists, ghost hunters if you must, your clergy, because you got to go from.
They're not
every
trained,
approach.
Jeff.
I understand, but they are trained in dealing with people who are going through emotional duress. Usually, clergy can help a little bit with
10 years in the
counseling.
seminary talking here. I don't.
Didn't they
trust
kick you
them.
out? Oh, yeah.
Well, that's
Bing,
because of this.
I get that one.
That wasn't the well. All right, that's a whole other story. Well, sir, I'm sorry to keep you hanging here. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's okay. I just I was just listening to the whole conversation, which is very engrossing, very interesting.
We need a 2-hour show.
It really, and I'll tell you, I grew up in the early 70s in my formative years. And if y'all remember, that was a great time for, the horror movie of the week.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Don't be
we all
afraid
love
of the
that.
dark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Crowhaven Farm with Hope Lang. All these, the occult was very, very popular in the early 70s. And that got me and my next door neighbors who are my same age. We got very into it. We had a big field next to our house and the woods in the back, and it was a wonderful time for kind of bringing that whole thing up. And Bermuda Triangle was very big, and it does seem like that type of the field of this knowledge does seem to ebb and flow during the times. Like I'm sure both of you remember around when Reagan became popular as a president. The whole New Age thing kind of went away for a while.
Yeah.
It wasn't until
the economy got a little better, and when that happens, people are less. They seem more interested in the paranormal when things are bad and when there's war going on.
You can plot it on a graph. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
In times of turmoil, the paranormal spike.
But thank you for calling in. Appreciate it.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guys, have a good night.
Thanks.
You too.
So when I stand at Gettysburg, I like to think these are not the ghosts of anything. These are actually there. They're standing right next to us in a parallel reality, which is that time. This is going on, and that hits me right here.
You're far more evolved than I am. Let me admit that. And to me, a ghost is this. It's the past demanding to be remembered. It's a way to bond with living people in the present because we tend to share these stories with someone we trust, and it's a bonding experience. And it's a way to explore our own inevitable future because we're all going to die. And so it's kind of
we're not. Anyway,
well, the physical body anyway. So to me, it's all those things. And as your caller just said, the paranormal also influences culture. Culture influences us.
Very much
it's
so.
all interconnected.
It
Every
sure
single
is.
piece of it.
Yeah.
And Gettysburg again. I to quote President Lincoln, right? I mean, who acknowledged in his Gettysburg address, he said, "We cannot hollow this ground." The brave men who died here did that far beyond our reason, our ability.
Yeah.
And it's so true. It's still true. All these years later, we can't hollow the ground because it's supposed to be haunted and haunting, for that matter. And it's supposed to tug at us from an eerie place, and that's good. We were a nation at war with ourselves. Thousands of people died over what?
Well, let's hope that can be expanded to include the entire planet. And
sure.
all those good and courageous and honorable people who have lived before.
Of course.
And our time is before us.
And the pursuit of the paranormal, it's a human thing. The paranormal doesn't exist without a living human nearby. You need a witness. If the tree falls in the woods, it doesn't matter if it makes a sound or not. There must be a person.
Absolutely. What do we got there, Mr. Producer?
Oh, we have about a little less than 9.
We got time.
minutes.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have like 7.5 minutes.
All right. Legend tripping.
Yes.
Let's at least
All right.
do some.
Okay. The last.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. No. So after years of doing this, and I had the gear and the equipment and things like that, and I figured, I think a lot of times we're fooling ourselves. The little meter lights up or whatever, and to me that just wasn't enough for the experience. I need to see it, and even if I don't see it, I'm okay with that. I want to walk where the legends walked, because the reality is, as soon as you hear about a haunt, a UFO landing site, a Bigfoot, sighting location, whatever it is, you hear a story and something compels you inside to want to go see it.
Yeah, it's like a spiritual experience.
Well, but I mean, like, you get a call saying, "Hey, Paul, I got this weird thing going on," and you're listening because you have years of experience, and you know when someone's just rattling off like a checklist that they heard on a TV show, and when someone's saying something where you go, "That sounds like they're not lying. I'm intrigued enough to go there." And so there's lots of stories all over the place. Famous haunts, like I said, the monster sightings, Loch Ness. These places draw us in because we want to become part of the story. We want to go to Loch Ness, and I don't care if you're the most diehard skeptic, you're going to look at the damn water, and you're going to wonder, Well, what if? What if
to go to Loch Ness since you were 2.
Yeah, I know.
What if something pops out of the water, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the joy of the human experience. That's the amazing thing about these legends that bind us. Why are there leprechauns in Ireland and puckwudgies in Cape Cod
Them again.
and little people in the Inuit tribes of Alaska? Why do these similar described creatures show up in cultures that didn't have contact with each other? Why do we still talk about them? Why do haunted places lure us in? You know, why all of these things? And it's a human thing, and I think that's so cool. You know, because every legend is changing from the moment it happens, from the moment it's born. It's always changing and evolving.
It's a long tail.
As new people come in, and you may go somewhere and say, "Look, I checked it out. It's the footsteps in the attic is a raccoon's nest up there. There are footsteps. It's a raccoon, you know, explained away." But it doesn't matter because not everyone will believe you. People will hold on to the legend. Now, if it goes long enough without any kind of paranormal influence and other experience, the legend will just naturally go away. It takes time. And now in the internet age and all that other stuff, legends can be born and grow to maturity so much faster than they could even 20 years ago. And so to me, legend tripping is just checking out these legends, stepping into those stories, talking to the people that had the experiences, and accepting, and you must accept the fact that maybe, just maybe, lightning will strike here again while I'm standing here. And sometimes, my God, it does. You know, it's rare, but it's amazing, and it's life-changing, and we talk about it.
Outstanding. Very good. Okay, tell us about your websites and your books.
Yeah, well, ghostvillage.com is always pretty central to what I do. You can find out everything I have going on there. And
a lot going on there.
Yeah, and actually, if I could get in one shameless plug, we do have an event this coming weekend in Pawtucket at the Slater Mill. And you can find that at legendtrips.com. We've got an event there. It's cool. You know, we'll feed you. We'll do hours of investigation.
We'll be there.
and you know, the portion of the proceeds go to benefit.
That's with our friend the Johnsons.
They'll be there.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, they'll be there.
Keith and Carl Johnson.
Of course. Yeah.
Outstanding.
They know that place so well. So yeah, no, it's great to be with you. I actually appreciate your show because there's actually nothing more boring to me than when someone's just like, tell us about how awesome it is to do whatever you do.
Yeah.
We should disagree. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Oh, no, we're definitely going to do this again. It's as I say, it's such a treat for us to have somebody in the studio.
Yeah.
Yes, we may get spoiled with it.
Okay, very good.
I never even got to fisticuffs.
It's okay.
Yeah, well, I wondered if you shouldn't be over that mic then. Well, maybe next time. But no, it was a great pleasure to have your wonderful guest.
Yeah, thanks.
Outstanding. It's wonderful if somebody can sort of carry things on in an articulate manner sometimes.
It is quite refreshing.
Yeah.
Well,
it is. Very good. Okay, well, let's do our final announcements here. Anyway, many thanks to our producer, Mr. Ben himself, who has been working here at the ON. And we'll see you next Monday, April 23rd, here on WOON 1240 AM and ONWorldwide.com, when Ben and I will welcome prolific British author Patrick Harper to discuss The Secret Tradition of the Soul.
And on our regular CBS edition on Sunday, April 22nd, in Boston, Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Seattle, we'll be hosting the first of 2 panels with people who have reported alien contacts. And that would be Tom Reed, Jesse Long, and Geraldine Stith.
That's correct, right. Okay. And certainly want to point out our own website, behindtheparanormal.com. You get almost 400 at this point free podcasts, and we're very happy to do that. People say a lot of places charge for their podcasts, and we don't do that. We consider this something of things we're trying to just do stuff for people, and we don't charge that for that. You don't either.
Nope, I'm a fan of the podcast.
And so we have almost 400 that are free, and you get from both CBS and here, and you're very welcome to take advantage of them at any time. Also, you can find out about previous guests, upcoming guests, some bios in there, photos, and find out all about what we're working on. You can also apply. Or rather, subscribe to our newly revamped newsletter, which comes once a month, and tell you what we're up to. And we're going to hopefully have a big announcement coming up within the next few months about something we're working on. And we're always involved in something interesting, so the newsletter's full of that too. So certainly wanted to just again, Ben, did you have any final thoughts here?
Don't forget about the Rendlesham
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
The Rendlesham 2012 conference is back on again. That's, of course, in Suffolk, England. Rendlesham case in 1980 being one of the most remarkable UFO incidents involving the military, certainly in the history of UFO studies. And it was on, it was off, now it's back on again.
Amazing story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
June 20, we did 16 hours of specials on that, so we're into that
Peter
case.
Robbins and
Peter Robbins,
yeah,
those
great
guys.
guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So check that out, and whether you can get to England or not, we're going to be covering the thing. And we ourselves hopefully will be speaking in Suffolk at the same venue in September as part of our town hall meetings in areas of paranormal flaps, trying to get to the bottoms of what people have experienced. And the first of those will be on May 5th, Saturday, in Montpelier, Vermont, at the Kellogg Hubbard Library there. I bet you've spoken there.
I have spoken there.
There you go.
That library.
It's a small world, especially in New England.
Especially in New England.
Yeah,
Yes, indeed.
Yep. So that's surrounding our case known as the haunted policeman in that area, and because it led to all sorts of other things, we're going to be doing that. So, okay. So we'll end with a quote here, as we always do. We leave you with this quote from Winston Churchill, that heroic old bulldog. Quote, "If you're going through hell, keep going." Unquote.
Truly meaningful quote. So thanks for sailing with us on our great cosmic journey, and we will see you next time.
Return to this radio frequency 167 hours from now for another edition of Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno.